What's good, y'all? If I told you that there was a team out there that was second in their conference, they had the fourth best record in the entire NBA at 37-19, they had the sixth best offense, the seventh best defense, and the fourth best net rating, you would say that's a damn good team and they are a contender. As you could tell from the title and the thumbnail of this video, I'm sure you know that team I'm talking about is the Memphis Grizzlies. But for whatever reason, people aren't really putting them in that top tier contending conversation. So by the numbers it says they are, in this video I want to take a quick deep dive into them and see, are they true contenders and can we trust them come playoff time? And I want to start by talking about the guy that really inspired me to make this video, and that is Jaren Jackson Jr. I feel like he is having one of the most underrated seasons out of anyone in the NBA right now. I really just wanted to talk about the Grizzlies so I can indirectly talk about Jaren Jackson Jr. Just to read off some of the stats he's putting up this year, he's averaging 23 points per game, 6 rebounds, 2 assists, a steal and a half, a block and a half, all while shooting 50% from the field and 37% from three. This season was the second time Jaren made the All-Star team, and I am very confident that he will also be making All-NBA and All-Defensive teams later on this season. I mean, now that we have the unfortunate injury to Wemby, Defensive Player of the Year is open. Maybe Jaren gets it, maybe Evan Mobley, I'm not too sure. But the whole point is Jaren is playing at an elite level and he's playing the best basketball he ever has. And it's really his jump as a scorer that's impressed me a lot this season. He's averaging a career high in points per game while also putting up some of the best efficiency numbers he has in his career. And a lot of people look at last year as a wasted season for the Grizzlies, but I don't really look at it like that at all. They were able to find some of their guys and develop them a little bit more. Guys like Scottie Pippen Jr., Vince Williams, Gigi Jackson. We'll talk a little bit more about those guys later. But also specifically Jaren Jackson Jr. last year was one of the healthier guys on the Grizzlies. He was there the most consistently throughout the season, and because of that, he was tasked to be the number one option on offense most nights. He was tasked to go out there and say, hey, we don't have Ja tonight. Jaren, you're our guy. You have to get some scoring. And at times it definitely looked rough for Jaren. The efficiencies weren't that good all the time. But putting him in those situations has really helped him develop to now this year. He is way more comfortable and it's a lot easier considering he has more talent around him. And more specifically than just his self-creation, in his post-ups he's looked fantastic. He's putting up 1.09 points per possession on post-ups, which is 7th best in the league and a career high for him. Earlier in his career when he first came into the NBA, his post-ups weren't really that efficient. It didn't really look like he was able to create good looks consistently. Now, I mean, it's good. He'll spin off you. He'll get to his little floater push shot thing. He's got his mid-range game going. He'll get to the basket and finish out over you as well. And he's able to develop this inside and in-between game while still being able to shoot the three ball, 37% like I mentioned before. He is terrific off the catch where he's really good at just getting that space open. Ja will get to the rim, kick out to him, catch and shoot, knock down, easy. And he's really just turned into the go-to scorer, especially in the half court for the Grizzlies. And like I said before, we know how good of a defender that he is. Former Defensive Player of the Year is in the running this season as well. If he's able to keep up that defense while keeping this newfound offense up, I'll go out and say it. He is the Grizzlies' best player. He's better than Ja Morant. And I know that could come off a little bit weird. It might be a hot take. I don't know how Grizzlies fans specifically feel about that. And it's not a slight to Ja, me saying that. I really do believe in Ja. But it's more of a praise to Jaren and how terrific he's been this year. And since we brought up Ja, we might as well talk about him a little bit. He is definitely having a down year. That's no secret. There's no shots there. He's just objectively having not the best season for Ja Morant standards. He's putting up 20 points per game, 4 rebounds, 7.5 assists, while shooting 44% from the field and 31% from three. That's a career low in field goal percentage and the least amount of points per game since his second season in the NBA. Like I said, definitely having a down season. I do want to give him a little bit of slack though, because last year he basically never played, only playing about like 8 or 9 games. Then this season he's been very in and out of the lineup. I know he's been dealing with injuries, but the other night I was watching the Grizzlies versus Pacers game, and on the broadcast they said Ja hasn't played 5 games in a row yet this season. I didn't know it was that bad. Like I said, I know he's been battling in and out the lineup, but 5 games in a row? Come on, Ja. We need a little bit more availability. And about a week ago, I saw reports saying the Grizzlies might be open to moving Ja Morant this offseason. I don't know how true those reports are, but I hope they're false because it makes no sense in my mind to move off of Ja Morant if you're the Memphis Grizzlies. I feel like he fits their play style pretty much to a T. He's also one of the best playmakers in the NBA. I feel like his playmaking is super underrated. He doesn't get brought up when you talk about guys like Trae Young or Luka Doncic, Nikola Jokic. I'm not saying he's better than those guys, but I feel like he's near that top tier of playmaking. Aside from Trae Young and Luka Doncic, he's probably the third best lob thrower in the NBA. He's great in the pick and roll. He's great in transition. He's great at the jump passes. You know, his combination of athleticism and speed really allows him to make passes that a lot of players in the NBA can't. And then obviously he's such a huge threat downhill that a lot of times in the half court he'll just push the pace, get to the rim, get downhill, and then just kick it out. The Grizzlies have such good ball movement and such high IQ guys that the ball swings. They get a good look from there. Ja Morant really starts all of that. And then outside of the half court, the Grizzlies are by far the #1 team in transition. They love forcing those turnovers, getting out fast, even off make sometimes. They'll push the pace and really get up there quick. Again, Ja Morant fits that to a T. He is perfect there. It's not even that he fits the system. He damn near like is the system. And while we're here, I might as well bring up the third guy in the Grizzlies trio, and that is of course Desmond Bane. Desmond started off a little bit shaky this season. I won't lie. You know, the efficiency numbers weren't really there with his scoring. But ever since like January 1st, terrific, man. He has really turned it up. In 19 games since the turn of the calendar, Desmond Bane has averaged 21 points, 6 rebounds, 6 assists on 53, 44, 89 shooting splits. He's really looked just amazing offensively. And I feel like Desmond Bane is the perfect tertiary guy to put alongside Ja Morant and Jaren Jackson Jr. just because he's so good at playing with the ball or without the ball. Off ball, he's a great spot up guy, catch and shoot threat, can drive the closeouts as well. And then also there's times where he's just out there kind of with the bench guys as the main ball handler, as the main guy that's creating the offense. And he's able to do that too. He's one of the most underrated finishers in the NBA, I think. You know, this season he's shooting about like 72, 73% at the rim on pretty decent volume too. A lot of those are self-created, you know, put his head down, get to the basket type of stuff too. I really like that part of Desmond Bane's game. And then also he's one of the best shooters on this team. He is also able to self-create those three-point shots. Obviously you would want to get those easy catch and shoot looks, but Desmond can get them both ways. And I feel like you can't talk about the Grizzlies without talking about their absolutely loaded depth. Big shout out to Taylor Jenkins for really being able to bring in guys, these like really undrafted second round pick type of guys, and just helping them grow their game and blossom them into good basketball players, because right now the Grizzlies seem like they have unlimited shooters, defenders, and just smart, good basketball players. The Grizzlies are the 6th best three-point shooting team in the NBA, and a lot of their volume comes from Desmond Bane and Jaren Jackson Jr., but also they have plenty of role players that just shoot the skin off the ball. Jalen Wells is shooting 37% as a rookie on 5 attempts per game. Santi Aldama, 38% on 5 attempts. They have Luke Kennard, who is leading the league in three-point percentage at 48% on 4.5 attempts per game. Jay Huff is the stretch big. You know, it's cool too because they don't just have shooters, they have guys that get it in different ways. Like I said, Desmond Bane, he's kind of a self-creator guy. You have Luke Kennard, who's a great movement shooter. Jalen Wells is more of a spot-up guy. Santi Aldama, Jay Huff, those are your stretch bigs. You know, they have just a lot of different ways to get these three-point looks and a lot of different positions that are getting these three-point looks. And then also it seems like almost everyone on this team is at least an average defender. They don't really have any weak links. They just fly around there on the court, causing havoc, forcing turnovers, and getting out in transition. You have your scrappy guys that are your point of attack defenders like a Jalen Wells or a Scottie Pippen Jr. that really get under your skin and make you work for every dribble. Then you have your rim protectors of Jaren Jackson Jr., super versatile. He can do a lot more than just protecting the rim, but he's great at that. Then the 7-foot phenom of Zach Edey. Jay Huff also will get down there, block a few shots as well. And then they just have guys that kind of use their length well, like a Santi Aldama, Brandon Clark, Gigi Jackson. You can kind of throw in that conversation as well. These guys aren't necessarily lockdown defenders that are going to be poking balls and blocking shots, but they know how to move and position themselves to use their length to their advantage and make it hard on the opposing offense. And then even guys that aren't in their normal rotation, like a Vince Williams who's been dealing with injuries throughout the season, or a John Conchar that will come in sometimes and then won't play for a few games and then be back in there. You know, everyone stays ready and they have just so much depth, man. That's also after they got off a bunch of contracts at the trade deadline to free up some money. Like, they have so many talented basketball players on this team. So after going over all of that, I guess it brings us back to that question of, are the Grizzlies true contenders? And I feel like it's a little bit difficult to say because obviously out west you have OKC as far and above the best team in the league and in the West. And then below that, you kind of have just a chunk of like the rest of the West, and it's really hard to put them in concrete orders. When you just look at the standings and the teams that are around the Grizzlies right now, you have teams like Denver and Houston, both LA Lakers and Clippers, Dallas now, even though they made their big trade. A lot of those teams you could say are contenders, but a lot of them have their own questions too. With Denver, it's always the depth question, you know, the non-Jokic minutes. Also, their shooting hasn't really been too good. Houston, they don't really have the guy to go to. The Lakers and Dallas, they just made crazy trades, so it's really hard to evaluate them really as of right now. You can really go down the list of each team, including the Memphis Grizzlies, and I do want to bring up their problem, their biggest glaring issue in my eyes, and that is their turnovers. They are one of the worst teams in the NBA at turnovers, and I'm not exaggerating it. They rank 29th when it comes to turnovers, and the only team in the entire NBA that turns the ball over more than the Memphis Grizzlies are the Utah Jazz. Anytime you're in conversation with the Utah Jazz, no disrespect, you're not in a good place. And again, it makes sense kind of with their play style because they really want to push the pace. They always swing the ball, and because of that, you could cause more turnovers than average. But 29th, man, like, you have to clean that up. But with all that being said, the only team out west that I'm 100% confident are better than the Grizzlies are the OKC Thunder. I think it's OKC, then I think Denver and Memphis are really in that second tier right there. I could go back and forth really depending on the day probably. And with how tight things are in the Western Conference right now, there is no way you can even attempt to predict what matchups are going to look like in the first round, second round, beyond that. So I'll just leave it simply as this. Can the Memphis Grizzlies win a championship in my eyes this season? Yes, they can. What is their ceiling though? It's probably closer to the Western Conference Finals because unless an entire meltdown happens in OKC, it's going to be very hard to knock them off. What do you guys think though? Let me know in the comments below. Where do you think the Memphis Grizzlies will end this season? Will it be first round, second round, third round? Will they be a championship? Let me know in the comments below. Hope you guys enjoyed this video. If you did, make sure you leave it a like. Subscribe so you don't miss the next one. In the description, there's links to all my social medias, so make sure you follow me on all those to keep up to date with me. Catch y'all.